Hey guys, Darren Russell here. Welcome back to another episode of The LionSeal Show. I've got a great episode lined up for you guys today where we're talking with LaMorte. And there's two interesting things that I think you guys will really enjoy, okay? Number one is that Chris used to work at an agency, okay? So he worked for a local agency doing web development work. That's what his job was, right? So basically, he was the nerd that sat on his computer all day and worked on websites, right? He had zero sales experience whatsoever. So when it came time that he decided to leave that agency and start his own, he was kind of screwed when it came to actually bringing in clients, okay? He got a couple referrals, and after that, he's like, how do I actually get more clients? He didn't know anything about sales. So it's really interesting to see how he kind of overcame that and figured it out and grew his agency to now over $20,000 a month monthly recurring revenue plus one-time gigs like web design on top of that, right? And what's the second thing that's really interesting that I think you guys will like is that I know a lot of people get stuck at around the $10,000 to $15,000 a month monthly recurring revenue mark. And the simple reason is that they're overworked and you don't really know how to scale at that point, okay? Well, about 8 months ago, Chris got completely stuck. He was working all day on just the clients that he had and he didn't know how to bring in any new ones, okay? There's no consistency there. So we started coaching together, we started working together on a coaching basis and we really helped him overcome that. And now we scaled that to over 20K a month monthly recurring revenue, so we doubled that business. And it's just really interesting to see how kind of he overcome that. You know, a lot of you guys are stuck with the same sort of difficulties, right? So let's just get straight into it. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and again, it's great to be back, so enjoy. Chris, thank you for joining me on the show today. It's very, very awesome to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So for anyone that doesn't know who you are, we've been working together like on a coaching basis now for quite a little while now. And you went out there from, what, a year ago you started your agency on your own? Or was it just SEO specifically?
Just SEO. I started my agency about 2.5 years ago. And then I started doing SEO, in the last year.
Gotcha. And in like that time now, you've got over 20 clients and built up a decent monthly recurring income from SEO specifically, rather than just relying on kind of one-time gigs like web design and things like that. And what's interesting also is before you got into this stuff, you worked at an agency, and I don't know how much you want to talk about that, but it sounds like you didn't really enjoy the experience too much. And I guess you kind of figured, like, I could do this myself. And you started up your own thing. Is that shortly after, or how did that work?
Yeah, so, I mean, it was, so I worked there for about, I think, 3 years. But the thing was, I actually didn't even do any SEO. It was strictly web design. So I started off as a web developer, web designer.
Interesting.
And I did some basic on-page optimization occasionally. I knew the basics. I knew about link building, but that's about the extent of my knowledge.
Sure.
So I worked there for, about 3 years. And it started with the websites. I was like, okay, they're getting, $5,000 a pop for these websites. I'm over here working for I think at the time I was making like $5,000 a month, which is definitely not bad, but, that's one website a month, and I could make that same amount of money. So I was looking at that, working ridiculous hours, and after I went, my wife and I just got married. We had just gone on our honeymoon, and literally as soon as I came back, I was like, you know what? I want to do this vacation thing more often, so I'm just going to quit. and then just left on the spot.
That's awesome. And you just immediately just started up going after your own clients after that?
Yep. Yeah, right away. It started with websites, and for a while that's all we were doing. And then, like I said, we decided to start moving into some other types of revenue, which happened about in the past year.
Okay. So how did you get your first client? Like you quit your job spontaneously by the sounds of it, and you're like, I'm gonna do this my own thing. I can do this myself. I can make some good money from this. How did you go out there and get like client number one?
It was totally impulsive. I mean, it was like literally just one day I was thinking about it. The next day I was quitting. The good part for me, I got really lucky.
Okay.
Because there was a sales guy that worked at that agency who also was quitting right at the same time as me, and he liked working with me. We had a good relationship working together. So he actually decided, he had all these relationships built up for people who need websites and SEO and even social media marketing. And he actually said, hey, I'll just refer business to you. So I was, obviously that helped a lot, mostly with websites. But I did end up getting a couple of SEO clients in the end later on from him.
That's awesome, man. So what made you shift then? So you obviously you're doing pretty well with web design in itself, right? But what made you shift into SEO, what, a couple of years later?
Yeah, so SEO is actually more than half of our business now, but
Okay,
what started is I think it was like 3 months after after starting my business. I got my dad was getting his house painted, and then he ran into like when he was getting quotes, he talked to some guy about what we do, and he said, you know, the guy's like, well, I already have a website, but I really need SEO, and I'm about to pay this guy like $850 a month to do it. And at the time, you know, brand new business, I had no recurring revenue. I'm like, okay, like whatever, I'll figure it out. And
sure.
you know, I had enough knowledge to where I could sell it. You know, I knew the basics of it, and enough knowledge just so that I could learn it. And I just figured, you know, at this point, I'm not going to turn down 800 or 850 a month, whatever it was,
I love it,
and
yeah.
I'll figure out a way to do it.
How much were you charging at the time for like web design?
For web design, I was starting at 2,000. Our
Okay.
average project was around 3,000.
So it's pretty good, but then it's also just one time, so as soon as it's done, you gotta find another client.
Right. Well, and that was the main thing is early on, just the stress was like, okay, you know, 1 month at the time, you know, I might have a five-figure month, and then I'm like, oh, cool, I'm going to be rich. And then like the next month, oh my God, the world's going to end. And it was
Yeah,
just a constant cycle up and down. So, you know, which is not for me. Some people can do that. I like recurring. I like to have some cushion, you know?
absolutely. Yeah. So you got the client for SEO. How did you, like you said, you didn't really know SEO that much at the time. You had to go and start learning. You knew you could learn, but how did you figure out what to do? And did you actually get that client some results?
Yeah, I did get the client results. I
That's
got
awesome.
him
Okay.
on the first page. One of the things in hindsight, I didn't really know, like where I messed up with that is I didn't know much about keyword research. So I got him to the first page. I knew basics, like they weren't no search volume keywords, but they were not probably the best keywords. We probably could have been targeting more cities, done more landing pages, but he did get enough to pay for itself. So he didn't lose money off of it, but you know, it probably like there were other methods of advertising that were more efficient. So he stayed with us for about 8 or 9 months.
Still not bad. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was happy with it for a first client.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than a one-time web design deal, for sure.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Cool. So how
Yeah,
did you
definitely.
learn the SEO? Did you like buy a course? Did you just try things out and just like see what worked? What was your process?
Yeah, I just Googled it, looked on sources like Moz. One of the things I probably did poorly was I just I believed most of the articles that I read uh, right away, and then I realized very quickly like how many pieces of information are conflicting with one another. But I'd say um, scientific ranking was huge for me. Like that's where I've gotten most of my knowledge at this point, and from just the Facebook groups.
That's awesome, man. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's changed from back then where you had like your very first SEO client to today where you're over 20 clients? Is that SEO or is that kind of a mix?
That's just SEO. So we
That's just
have a
SEO,
bunch of
okay.
website clients on top of that.
Sure.
And where we're getting revenue, again, it's up and down, but it's you know, we usually get at least about $5,000 a month in website revenue still, even though that's not as big of a part of our business as it was.
Yeah. So what is
hmm
the difference between how like your business is run and what you're spending your time on and things like that but today versus back then when it was all kind of one-time deal as web design?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of really helpful influences in my business, including scientific ranking. I've read books like The E-Myth, which has really taught me about actually scaling the business. Because when I first started back, I was doing websites, you know, I was the technician. I was just doing the websites. I was managing the project. I was doing pretty much everything to where I didn't have time to really focus on growing my business. And versus that's hugely different from now, where I have actually a staff of people and VAs that are doing a lot of the grunt work for me so that I can focus on mainly project management and then growing our business. So I can focus on sales, on making sure that our outreach campaigns are being sent out for cold emails, you know, whatever's going to bring business in the door. So as a result, it's caused our business to, we've grown more in the last 6 months than we did the previous 2 years combined.
Awesome.
So it's, so yeah, that's what I've learned is to, you know, like you might think that you're saving money by doing everything yourself. You might think that you're, you know, you'll be able to make more, and you will in the short term. But what I've learned is that if you can outsource it, it's better to just do it if it can be reasonably done.
Absolutely. And I guess the monthly recurrent revenue aspect of that gives you kind of the control to be able to do that, because beforehand it was like you said, like one month you'd make 10K plus, the next month it'd drop off like half of that or whatever, right? So having that control now that you have clients that are going to pay you every single month, granted some of them may cancel at any time, but you still have that base layer of recurring revenue every month.
Yeah, definitely. And that has a huge impact, because I basically, the extent of my project management is I look at the client's website and then I assign tasks to people, to my VAs or whoever, you know, and that gives me a lot more time to focus on those things. So it's a big difference, because, you know, with SEO, like you said, it's recurring. The intake process is one time, and then we just keep going month to month, and I can schedule things months ahead of time, right? You can't really do that with websites. It's constantly, like, your customers are constantly changing. You're constantly having to warm up to them or get them to warm up to you, constantly doing new intakes, new sales, because with SEO, if I make new sales, I'm adding to my existing revenue. Yeah. As long as I don't lose any clients. But with websites, I have to, just to be able to pay the bills, I have to constantly be selling. So it's hard to find time to get additional business on top of that. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, the monthly recurring revenue is a much better model.
Definitely. So let's talk about the past 6 months. You said you've taken on more business in the past 6 months than you had in the past year or so, was it you said?
Yeah, or the past 2 years.
Past 2 years, okay. Even better. Okay, perfect. So what has changed? Yeah. Is that in terms of you're getting better at bringing on clients, at keeping the clients longer, what has changed? I'm not going to tell you, you tell me.
Yeah. Well, see, we've always had really good client retention rate. I think like in the past year and a half, I think we've actually lost one client out of all of them, and it was a small client. So, you know,
That's pretty awesome, yeah.
I'm usually, I become like really good friends with most of my clients, like on a more personal level. So, you know, it's, and I really enjoy working with all of them. But the biggest thing is a little bit of what I was talking about before, and actually focusing on growing my business full time rather than doing SEO and websites full time and then growing my business as like an afterthought where I might get to it on the weekends if I'm able to, you know? So that's the biggest, what's had the biggest impact so far is just focusing on cold emailing, focusing on our own SEO, which has brought us a lot of business, and networking has been a big thing. And, you know, now that I have people helping me with the fulfillment side of things, I can actually focus on those things, which is just, it's been huge. We've doubled our business in the last 6 months.
That's awesome. So it's that thinking more like a business owner rather than a technician, rather than spending, if I'm hearing it correctly, rather than spending all your time on managing the clients and ranking the clients and doing the quote unquote work for the clients, you build up a team that kind of enables you to kind of let them handle that stuff, and then you can focus on things that actually bring in new money, like bringing in new clients, and focus on the business itself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what yeah, right now I'm kind of basically, before I was playing three roles. I
Yeah.
was, running the business. I was, well, actually a lot more than three roles, but basically it can be summed up into doing the work. I was managing myself and running the business.
Yeah.
And now I've switched to just managing and then running the business. And as you know already from our the work we've done in the inner circle, is I'm working on getting somebody else to actually be the project manager so that I'm literally solely focused on growing the business, which I expect will allow us to grow even more than we have in the past 6 months.
That's perfect. How do you know when it's time then to start kind of stepping back? Like initially, like it's great now, it's exactly what you need right now, right? But how do you know when it's the right time? Because when you first started out and you're selling some web design sales, and you maybe 1 month you make 5 figures, the next month you make 4 figures, it's massively drop back down again. How do you know when it's the right time then to start building up that team from your experience?
I don't. But I do the best that I can. I pretty much just, take a leap of faith, as it's called.
Okay.
I mean, I just go with my gut. So I feel very confident based on what we've done in the past that I can grow our sales to at least pay for the, said new project manager or whoever it is that we're bringing on. It's a little easier now than it was, like you said, back with the websites, because I can just say, like, I can justify in my head, okay, we brought on 5 new clients this month. I'm just making up numbers, but 5 new clients this month, that's $6,000 a month in revenue. So if I hire a project manager, that's $3,000, and I can think in my head, okay, well, we already can pay for it with that new business.
Yeah.
But when I was just doing websites, it was just a total risk. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to I'm gonna bring on some new people and hope that we can pay for it, and we've always been able to, and that's, from what I've seen, that's most people's experience.
Yeah.
But like one of the biggest jumps that I've made is my wife used to have a job. She was an allergy technician before she was helping me. And she was making decent money, so that was a pretty good chunk of change. Like plus benefits, we had health insurance from it too, and we were about to lose all of that. And in that I was actually a little nervous because I was like, okay, we're gonna have to work really hard to be able to pay for her salary on top of like plus benefits and everything else.
Yeah.
But we were still basically just doing websites at that point. But it was. I just took the risk, and it took a couple of months, but everything worked out.
How did you decide to make that jump? What was going through your head at the time that made you kind of finally make the decision? I presume you were thinking about it for a while before your wife decided to quit a job.
Oh yeah, we were thinking about it for about a year. Well, pretty much since she started the job.
Fair enough.
Pretty much since the beginning. I think it was just, I had gotten, I don't know, see, it's kind of hard to think about because we actually got most of the business after she quit, but it was just, what actually led me to the decision, I would say, is mostly the fact that we just, that I really wanted her to work with me, that I wanted her to, we wanted to be able to hang out and have the freedom to do what we want all the time. Because, before it was like, oh, we could go on vacation, but it would, she can't get off work, or we want to go do something else, but she has to work.
Yeah.
Right. I can, I have the schedule, and, but, it was also just the fact that I was thinking, we're limited in how much I can grow just me.
Sure.
Eventually I'm going to have to hire somebody anyways. So it might as well be my wife,
Absolutely, yeah.
No. I was just going to say, but it ended up working out really, really well. She didn't have a lot of experience in digital marketing at the time, but it's gone from her feeling like more of an employee to now we're 50-50 partners, and she adds just as much value, if not more, than I do.
That's awesome. How do you like working with your wife then? It sounds like it's going amazing. I can imagine some people would be terrified of it.
Yeah, yeah, I get that a lot, but we just get along really well. she's very patient.
Okay.
So she puts up with me.
Fair enough. That's cool, man. So I'd love to talk about like client acquisition stuff. So a few different questions on the topic. Firstly, do you have like a niche focus or like an area focus or something like that? Like I'd like to talk about having like some sort of focus of who their ideal clients are, who they target.
Yeah, it's primarily home service
Okay.
industries or home improvement. So tree services, roofers, which I know everybody in SEO is doing roofing, but
True that.
um, yeah, but pest control, plumbers is a big one for us. Just everything to do with the home. Sometimes we do branch out from that. Like we have a computer repair guy, and we have. I'm trying to think. We're thinking about signing up a nanny. So it's mostly, I guess, proximity based, like service area businesses
Sure.
that where people deliver or do services on site. Because it was initially just home services, but we have let in other industries, and we kind of take them on a case by case basis.
Okay, so you do have a focus. You are going after home service businesses in general, but if someone else comes in and they seem like a good fit, then you're not exactly going to turn them away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But our primary focus is definitely home improvement
Okay,
businesses.
perfect. And like straight up, like how do you acquire clients? What's your client acquisition processes that you can share?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm an open book, so I'll share everything. It's cold email. Your cold email method has been a big one that I
That's
learned from
awesome.
you. Yeah. And then the other two, one is actually, see, I've heard mixed results about this one, but it's been great for us, is our own SEO. Um, we rank for SEO in several cities around us, but also web design for several cities around us. So and that's a strategy that we've had that's worked out pretty well. As people call us looking for websites, because that gets a lot more searches, from my experience, than SEO does. But
Sure.
once they call for a website, they say, like we do the website, but then we tell them, you know, what are you going to do with your website? How is it going to bring you business? And usually we can kind of pique their interests. Okay, you have a website. Now let's get it in front of some people. So that's been a huge source of business for us. And then the third one is just referrals, strategic partnerships, teaming up with IT people, marketing or business consultants. We have a few of those. And like we have a branding consultant that's brought me a lot of business that I work really well with. And then also just my customers, asking them for referrals as well. We try to build really, really good relationships with our customers. Usually they refer business to us.
Okay, that's awesome. That's really good. I'm
So
curious. You said like you're ranking for web design in your city still. And then before that, we're talking about how SEO is so much better, how you get the monthly recurring revenue, everything like that. What is the reason you decided to continue selling web design even today?
mainly, honestly, because it's kind of a gateway to SEO. Um,
Sure.
I always joke, call it a gateway drug, because we can get them on a really good website, and then most people understand that with how competitive it is, how competitive online is just doing a website's not enough. So, and from my experience, most of my customers don't want a website just to have it sit there, just to look pretty. They would like for it to actually do something. They just might not know that that's an option. So that's the main reason. If we could do just SEO, I probably would, but we've just gotten so much business that started from a website.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, I agree. I
Hmm.
think pretty much anyone that buys a website, most of them are going to need SEO afterwards. Not necessarily they'll be a good fit for it, but most of them are definitely going to need it afterwards. So it's
Right.
a perfect entry level offer to it.
Hmm.
Cool, man. I'm curious. Over the past 6 months, then you said you doubled your business. What is the most effective way of acquiring clients for you in those 6 months? You don't need to tell me
Um,
what I want to hear.
yeah. Honestly, it's kind of a tie, I would
Oh,
say. I mean,
really?
I could look at the numbers, but yeah, it's about. I mean, I'd say maybe referrals. wins by a little bit. If I had to guess,
so, yeah.
it would probably, yeah, it would rank referrals, then cold emails, then SEO.
Interesting.
But I would say, but also the thing is with cold emails is we haven't done nearly as much because we had some staffing issues. So I would imagine that now, like once we get back on it, which we have a bunch we need to send out, cold emails probably would take the lead.
Cool.
I mean, because like from my experience with cold emails is just it can get you as much business as you want. It's just how many you're willing to send, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you talk a little about your experiments with the cold emailing and kind of what process you use for it?
Mm-hmm. So we pretty much took your method, the fake video audit method, exactly as it was written. I didn't really want to mess with it, but we have personalized it a little bit more. Like we've changed things around depending on industry. I try to figure out the ways to make it as personalized as possible, but with spending the least amount of time. So Mailshake works really well. Sometimes we can scroll through the emails and I just put random stuff to personalize it. Like I saw one guy's name is Chris and I threw in the email, hey, my name is Chris too.
Yeah.
Or just whatever I could think of, so that because once they get that, they're like, oh, this is a real email. This isn't just some spam fake unpersonalized email that's sent out, and that helps our response rates a lot. And there's some steps we've taken to make it more personalized. There's other areas where we've made it actually less personalized to make our process more efficient. But we're testing to find that balance to what gets the best response rates for the lowest cost, basically.
Sure. And what were some of your results? Because I know you've had mixed results. You said one time you sent out like 300 emails and got like 0 responses, to be completely unbiased. But in other times, I think you got some really good response rates and clients out of it.
Right. Yeah, I think like early on, I think it was like every 50 emails we sent out, we got a client. Wow. And these were people that were like right next to us. And then after, like, that quickly stopped happening. Because I think we just got lucky, to be honest. Because at first I was thinking, oh, wow, we're going to be rich again. Because we're getting, all we have to do is send out 50 emails and we'll get a customer. But then then we did landscaping companies and we sent out 300. I think we got 2 responses that were good. The rest of them were just like, people telling us to screw off, basically.
It happens.
And then like 2 of them, we got 1 really good lead, but we got no customers from it at all. So it's I've noticed some fluctuation. Like pest control was another one that we didn't have good luck with for cold emails, although we have a few pest control clients. So there's that's kind of interesting. There's a lot of testing we can do. And some industries and areas work better than others.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and something a lot of people don't realize. I see people sometimes just send like 100 emails and they just say it doesn't work, and maybe it didn't, but there's so much to test, like you were saying. Like you said, pest control didn't work very well for you. I've seen other people say pest control is their best niche and it's working extremely well for them. And it's really just dependent on the areas and what it's targeted and niches and all these different factors like that.
Yeah. I remember we talked about before. You mentioned that I think plumbers weren't very good for like over in the UK, but for us, it's like we're getting ridiculously good responses from plumbers. So,
whatever works is awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think was the reason in the early days then that you were getting like 1 client out of 50 emails, which is a very, very good response rate?
We weren't really doing anything different. Honestly, I think it was just luck, partially. I think it also helped that these people, they'd see our address at the bottom of, this is just my thoughts, but they would see our address at the bottom of my signature, and then they realize, oh wow, that guy's literally 5 minutes away from me, or like in the neighborhood over or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been it, but But then the thing is though, we've targeted other industries that were just as with people that are just as close, and people, they did not respond nearly as well. So it's tough to say.
It just worked out. You're not going to complain.
Yeah, definitely not.
So for anyone that doesn't know, can you quickly summarize like what the fake video audit method is for anyone that isn't familiar with it yet?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, it is where you send out an email, and correct me if I mess everything up because I'm just doing this off of my head. But basically send emails to people, hopefully that are relevant, that you find and you see, okay, these people are not on the first page of Google, or at least that's how we find people. We just look for anybody that's not on the first page. We send an email saying, hey, I noticed that you didn't rank for, or I came across your website and, sorry, 1 second. Forgot to turn my phone off. So you basically you send them an email saying, hey, I came across your website when looking for, say, pest control companies in Atlanta, and I noticed you don't come up on the first page. That's a lot of calls you're missing out on. So I put together a video explaining on how you can rank for the keyword that you're trying to. And then usually we list their top 3 competitors and say something like your competitors are beating you, or this is how much traffic they're getting, this is what you're missing out on. And then we send an email to them, but it's called the fake video audit method because we haven't actually put together a video. We've just we're just saying that, so then they'll respond and say, yes, I'm the right person to send this to, and then you can put together a video real quick and send it to them.
Yep, perfect. That's pretty much it.
Is that a good enough summary?
No, it's good, man. It's good. Yeah, I just wanted to hear it in your own words, especially because you're actually going out there and doing it as well. So it's always interesting to hear how people describe it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just go out there and send in emails to businesses, get them to respond saying they want to see a video showing how their competitors are beating them, recording that video, and then sending it back to them. Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything you've learned you've been doing it for a little while now, is there anything you've learned that you were kind of worried about or not sure about or anything before you started sending out those emails? We first heard, I presume, a video or something of me talking about it.
The big thing that I've learned, and we've actually talked about this, is, well, 2 things. One is don't give a shit what people think. Don't let that get you down, because people are, they're going to be unhappy by you emailing. Like, don't be afraid of bugging people, because in my experience with these people we've emailed, we help them a lot and help their business.
Absolutely.
So, and also when I don't even go into it with the intention of selling anyone. I'm just basically, the way I see it is I'm just letting them know about a problem, and if they want me to help fix it, that's great. But if not, at least we can help someone. It doesn't have to turn into a sale, and that's kind of been a way of thinking it that made it easier for me, because I always hated the idea of cold anything, cold email, cold messages, cold calls,
Sure.
and so that helped a lot. And then the third thing is just do it, because I know that's been a struggle for me, and it's a struggle for a lot of people, is you want to read about it, and you want to plan out how you're going to do it, like get your website together, do all these different things to prepare for it, when at the end of the day, for me, it's just I had to stop preparing, just send the emails, and it doesn't really take much.
No, really, you just got to literally start sending them, find some information and send them. It's a few hours of work to send a few.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. I want to talk about that first point, which is ignore the hate or the bad responses or anything like that. Do you get many sort of negative responses? You said earlier about getting emails saying screw off and stuff like that. Do you get much negative response to the emails?
I mean, I get some. I mean, it's not an overwhelming amount. Like, there's been certain industries where we got more than others, but
Sure.
It's few and far between. Most people are appreciative, especially since for most of the cold emails we've sent out, we're right down the road. Most people are nice and appreciative, and they're like, they'll say, oh, thanks, but we're not interested at this time, or I appreciate it, I'll pass it on.
Yeah.
But it's very few people that have just been downright nasty. But it does happen, and I'm the type of person, I do not have thick skin at all, like like other people. So like it's been a process to learn. You know, it's just part of being in business and being in this industry. You kind of have to have thicker skin.
Do you have to take a break or something when you get an email like that?
I did. I used to just spend all this time thinking about it, or like, or just, you know, when we'd have problems with anybody, not just cold emails.
Sure.
But that's one of the good things that cold emails has helped me with. It's just helped me because it's like if I get mad at every single email or nasty email that's sent to me, I'm going to be really busy being mad. So I'm not going to be able to get anything done. So it's kind of, it's out of necessity taught me to not really pay attention to those people.
Absolutely. I'm curious, it's completely off topic to what we're talking about now. What would you describe as like your biggest problem in business today? Like your biggest struggle?
My biggest, yeah. Gosh, there's a few of them. I'd say organization, and we're getting a lot better at it. Your training videos have been a good asset, and by the way, I'm not kissing up. I'm like, we're literally just. It's like
I appreciate it. I'll take it.
But yeah, it's been a huge asset. But you know, we're still not as organized as I would like to be, and my thing is getting to the point where we're operating like a real business. You know, like not just me working out of my house, because I think we have like 5 people right now, including me and my wife. So we're starting to get to that point where we have to have procedures, SOPs in place, and really have processes that everything runs like a machine, because it's not just me anymore. I can't just keep track of everything in my head.
Absolutely. I guess it's a big shift from the early days.
Oh yeah, because before I did everything, so like we didn't need project management software because I had it on paper, you know, and I still obviously use that for like my own personal tasks, but you know, if we're not organized and people aren't collaborating like they need to be, then stuff falls through the cracks and people get unhappy.
Yeah.
So,
what part of the business?
That's what I would say.
No, that's fair enough, and that's cool. I was gonna say, what part of the business do you think that you're good at? Like, what's the part you're very good at?
I would say I'm good at.
It sounds like a job
at the vision.
Now.
I know, right? What's your greatest weakness? Yeah, I would say that it's definitely the vision, or I guess looking ahead, and more than just that, but the sales part.
That's
just
what I was thinking.
Growing the business in general. I mean, I've never been a sales guy. It was funny, like when I left my old agency, they actually were like, you know, you have to sell if you want your own business. Like, you're not going to be able to do that because you're an introverted computer nerd. They didn't say that. That's basically what they were saying. And
sure.
But you know, like just out of necessity, that ended up being what I'm best at. And I've learned it's not just about being a smooth talker or anything like that. It's just knowing your product, believing in your product, and being able to connect with people. So it was surprising that that's what I would be the best at, but it just turned out that way.
No, that's perfect. I really like that. I think I wouldn't say I'm the best sales guy in the world, but it's the same thing. Another shy, introverted computer nerd, whatever you want to call it, that basically just sit in front of a computer all day. But I actually got into sales myself through selling again SEO services to businesses, and turns out I was actually not bad at it and actually really enjoyed it, which I never ever expected to happen. So I'm curious, from one computer nerd introvert to another, how do you go out there and from being a web designer that never done sales in their life to getting your first clients and start to sell? How did you pick that up? How did you get good at it?
Pretty much just talk to people, put yourself out there. I know it's scary. I always hated doing it because I was afraid that, especially in the SEO community, but where people know what they're talking about, and I don't want to look dumb. But you know, I've seen some training videos, looked at some sales material, and gotten some basic tips. But definitely most of it has just come from experience, just putting myself out there. And I did, like, for a large portion of the time, there were times where I looked stupid or was nervous or said stuff that didn't make sense. I've done some other interviews, like done presentations in front of people. It's pretty much just getting used to it, and eventually it's not that bad. I used to freak out anytime I talked to somebody on the phone. Like, it was just, my palms would start getting sweaty, start shaking, like they could probably hear it in my voice. And now I honestly don't even think about it.
Yeah, I actually agree 100%. Yeah, it just, after a while, there is definitely things you can learn that's going to kind of skip mistakes you make, but after all, you just need to get on the phone and start practicing it, and you're going to get better. And also, what you mentioned earlier is that when you're sending the videos, your intention is to genuinely help them out. When you get on the phone and you're not thinking, how can I sell to this person? How can I sell to this person? How can I sell to this person? And you're actually thinking, how can I help this guy out? And your service is often a very good way of doing that. It's just it's a much easier sale, and you feel less pressured than when you're on the phone thinking, how can I sell? How can I close?
Right, exactly. And that's been the biggest thing for me, is just learning. Because when I would try to do sales before, I think the part where I messed up most of the time was I thought I had to be a salesman. I thought I had to be someone else. I thought I had to sound like, because we had some really, at the agency I worked at, we had some really good salesmen there. The owner was just incredible at sales. And I kind of realized, I noticed he didn't sound like what most people picture when they think of the salesman. Like he didn't sound like a used car salesman or anything.
It's funny how people picture that.
Right. Yeah. And so once I stopped trying to be someone else, it got a lot better, because the reality is nobody expects their SEO or web developer to be a smooth talker. Nobody cares about it. Like, nobody expects them to be super extroverted. They just want to know that you care and that you know what you're doing, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. It's mostly just like listen, to be honest. Like, you ask them questions and stuff like that, and you're just listening to what they're interested in, how you exactly can help them out. Yeah.
Well, and the I keep going back to your stuff. What is it? Sales close?
Educated
close system.
Yeah.
Yeah. That helped a lot too. And we get to a point, and that's exactly right, is, most of the time I'm just asking questions. I'll just let them talk, let them answer the questions, and then before you know it, they're basically talking themselves in to why they need our services, and how they're going to benefit from it. So, and that's another big thing, is not trying to, like, for me, especially recently, it's easy for me to get more aggressive and kind of want to just tell them over and over again why they need my product and why we're best. But I've learned that it's definitely better to just kind of put the brakes on and let them tell you.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. It's actually better, in my opinion, when you're selling that way, when you're just kind of stepping back and letting them come to you versus kind of forcing it down them. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious then, we've talked heavily about the upsides of like running an agency and how you've got the recurring revenue and how the cold emailing system is working really well for you, among other things. What is the downsides of your business? What's the downsides of running an SEO agency versus an infinite number of other businesses that you could be running?
I'd say there is some stress at times, particularly for me, because like I said before, I still kind of am. I just got my headphone off. I would always be the type of person that takes everything. Pretty sensitive guy, so everything people say to me, I take it to heart. Like, wasn't even that long ago, we had a guy who didn't pay his bill, and then when we asked him, when we said we can't continue service, he threatened to sue me, and just got really nasty. And I tend, to take stuff like that to heart, and it stresses
Sure.
me out, let it get to me. But and it's been a learning process that stuff like that's going to happen. You're not going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
So it's important not to stress out about that stuff. So that's what I would say. So the stress part is probably what I'd say the biggest downside of it is for me, but it can be really easily fixed. It can be really easily avoided just by accepting that people are people.
Yeah. So the stress of people is one of the biggest downsides then.
Yeah, because I mean, it's also just the type of person I am. Like if it's my own money, if I'm the one spending $1,500 a month on SEO,
Yeah.
obviously I don't want to lose it, but I'm not even going to freak out about it. I just know it's an investment. That's just how investments go. If I lose $5,000 on an investment, which has happened before, I'm not gonna. I don't stress out about that as much as I do investing somebody else's $5,000.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy working with clients though?
Overall, I do. Most of my clients are amazing. I have really good relationships with them. We talk about much more than business and SEO, and some of them, we give advice about their business beyond just SEO. Because we're building a business too, and we can share what we've learned. Shared what we learned along the way, especially for the newer businesses. So we're trying to expand and do more things other than just client SEO, but I don't think I'll ever stop doing it. I think we'll just probably be more selective on who we work with.
Yeah. Awesome. I like that. Like the clients also can absolutely stress you out, especially bad ones. But it sounds like you actually enjoy dealing with them overall. And yeah, that's really cool, man. Do you have any tips then? Like final, maybe a couple questions or so. I have to start wrapping it up now. But do you have any tips for avoiding the bad clients and the ones that, you know what I mean, just bad clients in general?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say trust your gut. That's the biggest thing. Because there's been plenty of times where I didn't, where I thought I shouldn't take this person on. And, and when I say bad client, it doesn't even necessarily mean that they're bad or they're a bad person. It's usually just they're not a good fit. Like some
Absolutely.
people, for example, if they're really, really stretching their budget, and say they're taking their life savings and putting into SEO or all of the savings they have, I now know don't let them do that because they're going to be a lot more scared to lose it,
Yeah,
and they're going
rightfully
to
so.
require a lot more. Right, exactly, than somebody who's just investing some extra dollars that they have laying around. So, and there's been things I've done to kind of avoid that. Like one thing is I always have a talk now with every client that I sign up and tell them, hey, don't SEO. I think we can get you results. I feel confident we can get you results, but don't invest in anything, including SEO, that you're not willing to lose. Because at the end of the day, it's not a sure thing. Google can change. People might not buy your service for whatever reason. There's sometimes factors outside of my control.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the honesty. That's very cool. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the main thing, is just being honest and transparent with them, and that's how I can sum it up. And just make sure you set reasonable expectations.
This
You
huge. I think expectations is probably the most screwed up part of selling SEO, because you get a little bit wrong and you get a client emailing you after month one, hey, where's my rankings? And everyone that's in the business obviously knows you can't do that fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And and we get people that say, oh yeah, so and so promised me page one rankings within the first month, and you and I know that it's not very likely for any with decent competition. So but I think some people find it tempting to say, oh yeah, I can do that too if they can do it, but I just honesty is always the best policy.
Absolutely. Cool. Final question then before we wrap it up. What's the last question? I think we're good. Okay. if you could go back to the day you quit your job at the agency and you decide you're going to go out this on your own, what 3 pieces of advice would you give yourself?
The first thing, the biggest thing I would say is go join the SEO Facebook groups. And connect with other SEOs, because that's really what I credit, like the growth we've had in the last 6 months is because of that. Because I'm over here like doing this business model that I think is unique. I think everything I'm doing is so special and I'm so smart. And then 7 months ago, because I'm new to the community, I realized there's literally thousands of people that are doing literally the exact same thing as me and doing it better. So that's the biggest thing I would say is, definitely work together with other people in the industry.
And you gotta love the community as well. Everyone's so transparent and sharing things. It's really an awesome community. It's nothing like it.
Right, and I like it too because obviously there's some everywhere, but I don't really see many egos, people like trying to outdo each other. It seems legitimately people are just trying to help each other out. So it's been great. And really help the business. So the second thing I would say, like I mentioned before, just go out there, put yourself out there, just do it. Don't spend a lot of time on projections, planning, things that don't spend a lot of time on things that aren't going to generate return on investment,
Sure.
Because that's what I teach for my clients. So just focus on getting your first dollar in first, and then focus on everything else.
That's a huge tip.
And
I 100% agree.
Yeah. And then the third thing I would recommend is, I would say don't neglect organization because. And that's, I guess, not right when I started, but that was the big thing is there's a lot of things that I thought were pointless or stupid, like getting a signed contract, for example, and getting one that's actually covers us, like basic business practices that I ignored. I was like, nothing's going to happen. I don't need them. And I've now learned that even if there's no legal troubles, it's just best to have everything in writing, all of your policies in writing, and go over it with them so that there's no misunderstanding between clients.
That's smart. Do you have like a lawyer for that, or do you download a contract off the internet? How do you do it?
I use Rocket Lawyer, and then they have, if you need to talk to an attorney, they have a network. So I recently had them redo our contract because I didn't have a contract for the longest time, and then when I did, it was just a bunch of bullet points that I wrote myself, and it's just, I would add to it as I go. But I've learned that it's just best, and not just the contract part, but just communicating with them in general and making sure that everybody's on the same page with how long it'll take. What kind of results they can expect if you have a ranking guarantee, whatever that guarantee is, and then have specific policies outlined. Like for example, we have a ranking guarantee that we do. Within 6 months, they'll rank for at least a portion of their keywords, or will work for free until they get there.
That's cool.
But we didn't stipulate any requirements. So we had an issue where a guy, his hosting shut off, and it was shut off for I think 2 weeks, and they lost all of their rankings while their website was down. And so for a second there, I was like, wow, we still have that ranking guarantee in place, regardless. Like we didn't say that it's void if somebody takes down the website or anything like that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he brought it back up, and then the website was back online, and everything went back to normal. But just little situations like that, we've gotten off pretty easy most of the time, but have made me realize, that's why so-and-so is telling me I need to have a contract, or that's why so-and-so is telling me I need to do these, it just goes back to functioning like a real business,
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. yeah, definitely get that sort of stuff in place. I will also add though, it's cool that when you first start out, you just kind of go for it. You just kind of take some action and you kind of figure that stuff out later. And like on some level, but again, you've already watched this now. You already know that you should probably have the contract in place. It's not hard to set it up. Like once you've got a client that's interested in signing up, or at least you booked in your first sales call, then go ahead and set it up then. You don't need to think about it in advance of that. But once you've got like sales calls booked in, like definitely set it up in advance. I think it's good advice.
Yeah, and I'm all for going for it. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
my thing is I waited, I think, over a year before I started doing real contracts and made that a policy. So it's like to me it's a balance. Because I know it sounds like they might contradict each other, but it's definitely
balance.
Go out there, right? Start selling. Don't wait until you have all of your ducks perfectly in a row, because in my experience, you never get there. You never are perfectly ready. It's just definitely go for it. But for me, I would I have no idea what I just said. Prioritize. I would prioritize my clients' businesses and getting results over my own business and everything else. And so I guess that'd be a better way of saying it is we need to focus on our business just as much as our clients.
Absolutely. I think that's some awesome words of wisdom to wrap up the episode on, Chris. So where can people find you if they want to reach out, connect you, anything like that?
They can go to our website. Our company name is WebChimpy. So it's webchimpy.com, which I know it's a weird name. It's CHIMPY.com. I'm sure you can put a link in.
Yep, for sure. Where did the name come from? Sorry, just the final question, just as we wrap it up.
It's I wanted to do WebChimp or WebMonkey, but everything was taken, so I just decided to combine the two.
Love it. Why not? Cool, man. I really appreciate you joining me today. It's been an epic episode.
Mm-hmm.
So
thank you.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I shall see you in next week's episode. I'll see you there.